Subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so that you know when live we go. Hello and welcome to Rao's IAS DNS session. We are going to have a discussion on today's newspaper, The Hindu, Delhi edition dated 4th September 2021. We shall pick up articles important for civil service examination and discuss them as per the demand of the exam. Today's DNS will be largely taken by Vaibhav sir. I'll just be chipping in for a few minutes. The articles that we are going to discuss are there on your screen, and the time stamping for the same I hope will be there in the description section as well.
PMI signals fastest rebound in services activity in 18 months appears on page number 14, which is a page for business and economy on the Hindu newspaper. So India's service sector expanded in August as the fastest paced in 1.5 years amid strong inflows of new work and improved demand conditions, has been reported by Purchasing Managers Index. And just like all other indices in economy, for example, Consumer Price Index, Wholesale Price Index, Index of Industrial Production, this PMI is also very, very important. As you can see on the screen, there have been a lot of questions dealing with indices, and it's only a matter of time when a question on PMI is asked. And so starting with who releases the PMI. And so PMI data is published by Japanese firm Nikkei, but compiled and constructed by Market Economics. And so this is a very crucial point. Generally, in all other indices, the agency which is responsible for compilation and construction is the same. But in this case, there are two different agencies, Nikkei and Market Economics. And so what is the source of information, or what are the sources of information on which PMI relies upon? And so PMI is calculated based on information received from companies on various factors that represent demand conditions. It is very different from IIP, which is indicative of actual production. The PMI takes in responses from a company on a monthly basis on whether there has been improvement, deterioration, or no change for a set of parameters relative to previous month. And so what are the parameters which is used by PMI in calculation of the index? It is new orders, output or production, employment, suppliers delivery, and stock of purchases. This questionnaire is administered to 500 private sector companies and the comprehensive score is arrived at. The PMI is constructed separately for manufacturing and services sector, but manufacturing sector holds more importance. And so what is a good PMI and what is a bad PMI? Or when does PMI indicates expansion? And when does it indicates contraction? And so a figure of 50 is very, very important, because above 50 denotes expansion in business activity and anything below 50 denotes contraction. Higher the difference from this midpoint, greater is the expansion or contraction. The rate of expansion can be judged by comparing the PMI with that of previous month data. If the figure is higher than the previous months, then the economy is expanding at a faster rate. If it is lower than the previous month, then it is growing at a lower rate. And so when you have to understand the importance of PMI, it is usually released at the start of the month, much before most of the official data on industrial output, manufacturing, GDP growth become available. And hence, it is considered as a good leading indicator of economic activity. At the same time, a lot of people get confused between PMI and Index of Industrial Production, or IIP. And so it is important for us to cover the crucial differences between the two. First and foremost, PMI is released by a private agency, Nikkei, whereas IIP, all of us know, is released by NSO. PMI does not tracks original or actual production, but IIP does tracks. PMI covers only 500 private sector companies, whereas IIP covers both private sector as well as PSUs. PMI covers both manufacturing and services, whereas IIP covers only manufacturing sector. And so PMI is obviously less comprehensive since it covers only private sector companies, and obviously IIP is much more comprehensive. PMI is not used for GDP calculation, whereas IIP is used for GDP calculation to account for the unorganized sector. SC Collegium clears 68 names for High Court judges appears on page number 1. So within days of successfully getting 9 new judges appointed to the Supreme Court in one go, the top court's Collegium led by Chief Justice of India, N.V. Ramanna, has in yet another first recommended 68 names in one stroke for elevation as judges of various high courts. Now we know from the perspective of GS paper 2, appointment to various constitutional posts is very important. Apart from that, this also becomes a part of your prelims syllabus. And in this regard, we have already done a discussion with respect to not only the constitutional provisions dealing with the appointment of High Court and Supreme Court judges, but also the issues of Collegium system. And so we will hear that discussion now. And so judges to the Supreme Court and High Court are appointed by the President of India by warrant under his hand and seal respectively under these two articles. Judges of Supreme Court shall hold office till the age of 65 years, whereas judges of High Court shall hold office till the age of 62 years. However, the method and manner of their selection to higher judiciary has not been explicitly provided in the Constitution. And hence, the process for appointment, elevation and transfer of judges to higher judiciary has been a debatable issue. We know Government of India earlier passed the Constitution 121st Amendment Bill 2014 to establish a National Judicial Appointment Commission, which was about to replace Collegium system. However, a 5-judge bench of Supreme Court declared NJAC as unconstitutional because of interference from executive in the judicial appointments. And so in this manner, let us understand what the process currently is. So what is Collegium? So the Collegium is one where the Chief Justice of India and a forum of 4 senior most judges of Supreme Court recommend appointment and transfer of judges of higher judiciary. The Collegium system evolved through 3 different judgments which are collectively known as the 3 judges cases. So the Collegium system does not have either legislative or constitutional backing. Now, recommendations of Collegium have been made public on the website of Supreme Court, including the reasons for appointment or transfers. So if Collegium system is neither constitutional nor legal, how did it come into existence? So before the Collegium system, the earlier practice was that the power to appoint Supreme Court judges rested primarily with the executive. The practice was to appoint the senior most judge of the Supreme Court whenever a vacancy occurred by the executive. That is fair enough. But the troubles began when there was a departure from this process. Because in 1973, the Union government departed from this practice and appointed Justice A.N. Ray as Chief Justice of India, who was 4th in the order of seniority and hence bypassing 3 senior judges of the Supreme Court. The government was accused of tampering with the independence of judiciary. We know that these 3 senior judges resigned from their posts in protest. Again in 1976, government appointed Justice Beg as Chief Justice of India, bypassing Justice Khanna, who was senior to him. Thus, interference by executive in judicial appointments was cloaked in wheels of politics, and it started a disturbing trend in judicial appointments in India. We know till 1976, India had witnessed emergency and implementation of 42nd Amendment, which had casted a serious doubt on the ever-growing power of executive in all spheres of democracy. And so in such an environment of growing executive influence, the Collegium system evolved through 3 different judgments which are collectively known as the 3 judges cases. And let us understand them and their significance. So these are a series of 3 judgments which were delivered by Supreme Court. And the first one of them, known as First Judge's Case, which was S.P. Gupta versus Union of India in 1982, where the Supreme Court held the decision in favor of the executive. Where the Supreme Court held that the opinion of Chief Justice of India and Chief Justice of High Court was merely consultative, and the power of appointment resides solely and exclusively with the central government. The central government could override the opinion given by the judges. So the First Judge's Case clearly uplifted the position of executive as far as appointment of judges of higher judiciary is concerned. Then of course this particular judgment was challenged in 1993, which is known as Second Judge's Case. And here, the Supreme Court clearly emphasized that the government does not enjoy primacy or absolute discretion in matters of appointment of Supreme Court judges. Court said that provision for consultation with Chief Justice was introduced as Chief Justice of India is best equipped to know and assess the worth and suitability of a candidate. And according to Supreme Court, it was also necessary to eliminate political interference. And hence Supreme Court held that selection should be made as a result of participatory consultative process where executive has the power to act as a mere check on the exercise of power by Chief Justice of India to achieve constitutional purpose and not otherwise. And finally, the third judge's cases, which led to the emergence of Collegium system which is known today. So Supreme Court, on a reference made by the President under Article 143, laid down the following proposition with respect to the appointment of Supreme Court judges. While making recommendation, Chief Justice of India shall consult 4 senior most judges of Supreme Court. So it is just not the prerogative of Chief Justice of India. This is more democratized than that. Then the opinion of all members of Collegium regarding their recommendation shall be in writing. Then the view of the senior most Supreme Court judge who hails from the High Court from where the person recommended comes must be obtained in writing for Collegium's consideration. Then if majority of Collegium is against the appointment of a particular person, that person shall not be appointed. Then even if 2 of the judges have reservation against appointment of a particular judge, Chief Justice of India would not press for such appointment. Then a High Court judge of outstanding merit can be appointed as Supreme Court judge regardless of his standing in the seniority list. So these are the current rules which guide the functioning of the Collegium system. But again, this particular Collegium system is also not beyond the criticisms, and the 4 major criticisms leveled against the Collegium system is lack of transparency, nepotism, politicization of judiciary, and absence of permanent commission. Lack of transparency because Collegium system worked in complete secrecy and initially did not reveal the methodology or the reasons or the procedure followed for transfer or promotion of judges or even appointment of senior lawyers as judges of Supreme Court and High Court. Then, of course, charges of nepotism because there have been a lot of instances of favoritism and preferential treatment to members from judicial fraternity. This also impacted the quality of judgment, especially in high courts as well. Then due to lack of transparency in appointment process, certain political appointments, especially to high courts, have been witnessed in past 2 decades. Then of course there is an absence of permanent commission which has been recommended by Law Commission and also by the National Commission to review the working of Constitution in 2002. We know that Constitution was amended to include National Judicial Commission, but it was declared null and void by the Supreme Court. India and Russia friendship has stood the test of time, says Modi. So this statement was made by Mr. Narendra Modi while he was addressing a virtual summit of Far Eastern Economic Forum 2021. Mr. Modi's remarks came days after Russia abstained from a crucial Afghanistan and terrorism-related resolution at the UNSC, where India served as the president for August. He mentioned a number of areas spanning connectivity, space research, shipbuilding, which he stated were redefining the strategic bilateral partnership. Now, from the perspective of GS Paper 2 International Relation, you can clearly see bilateral, regional, and global groupings and agreements involving India or affecting India's interests and effect of policies and politics of developed and developing countries on India's interest. And Russia has always been a very, very trusted partner until recently. Now, in this regard, Mangal sir has done a very, very extensive discussion on not just exploring India-Russia relationship and the challenges, but also what constraints are being put by US and China into this relationship. And so let us now hear that discussion.
Now, it has been said that Russia has been critical of the concept of Indo-Pacific and the quadrilateral security dialogue. And recently, the Russian foreign minister had termed the quadrilateral security dialogue as being the Asian NATO or the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. We all know that NATO or the North Atlantic Treaty Organization was formed during the Cold War, and this mainly was aimed at countering the communist camp that was led by the erstwhile USSR. And accordingly, the Russian foreign minister has termed the new quadrilateral security dialogue between India, United States of America, Japan and Australia as being an Asian NATO which aims at countering Russia as well as China. Further, Russia thinks that the quadrilateral and the Indo-Pacific conceptions are primarily an American initiative, and this initiative has been designed to contain both China as well as Russia. And as opposed to the concept of Indo-Pacific, Russia is in the favor of the concept of Asia-Pacific. So in this context, let us try and understand what is the difference between the conceptions of Asia Pacific and the Indo-Pacific, and how are these two concepts different. Now the term Asia Pacific simply relates to that part of Asia which lies in the Pacific Ocean. And it was an idea, or it is an idea which is proposed and supported by Asia's Pacific powers, or those powers that share a border with the Pacific Ocean. And accordingly, the concept of Asia Pacific includes three major constituents. These include Northeastern Asia, which can include China, North Korea, Japan, etc. Then there is Southeast Asia and Oceania, which includes Southwestern Pacific. However, it should be noted that India is not a part of this particular region. And this conception of Asia Pacific was primarily an economic concept and was not a security concept. And accordingly, the most representative organization of this particular concept is the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, of which India is not a part. And primarily, this Asia Pacific concept centered around the economic cooperation, and it did not have any security related implications. So as you can see in this map, the area that is bound by this yellow dashed line represents the Asia Pacific, and it includes northeastern part of Asia, also Southeast Asia, and the islands of Oceania, or the Western Pacific Ocean. However, the Indo-Pacific as a concept, on the other hand, is an integrated theater which combines both the Indian Ocean as well as the Pacific Ocean. And this is represented by the red dashed line that you can see in this particular map. And it includes the land masses that surround these two oceans. That is, the countries that surround both the Indian Ocean as well as the Pacific Ocean are part of this conception of Indo-Pacific. So basically, Indo-Pacific is a larger concept as compared to Asia-Pacific. Now, this conception of Indo-Pacific region is seen by analysts as shifting of the geopolitics from the Atlantic Ocean towards the Indo-Pacific region. And it is an idea that captures the shift in power and influence from the west to the east. So it is basically both a strategic as well as economic concept. And this is because it includes important sea lanes of communications that connect the littoral countries of both these two oceans. And because the Indo-Pacific region mainly includes the maritime space, the Indo-Pacific is mainly associated with maritime security and cooperation. On the other hand, we have seen that the Asia-Pacific region mainly focuses on the economic cooperation. So basically, there is difference between the conception of both these ideas, that is Asia-Pacific and the Indo-Pacific. And you can clearly see it on the map that the area that is bounded by the yellow dash line basically includes the conception of Asia-Pacific region, which is primarily an economic cooperation concept. While the Indo-Pacific concept is a larger concept which can be seen to be covering the area that is included within this red dashed line. And it includes the littoral countries of Indian Ocean as well as Pacific Ocean. And one of the greatest cooperation that is being seen in the Indo-Pacific region is represented by the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, which has India. So basically, in the Indo-Pacific conception, India is also a part, being a member of the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue. However, in this Asia-Pacific conception, India is not a part. And in this background, the Russian ambassador to India had recently advised India to take a larger look at the Chinese foreign policies. And also, he described the Indo-Pacific strategy that is being embraced by the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue as an effort to revive the Cold War mentality. And you all might be knowing that during the Cold War, the world was divided into two camps, one represented by the United States of America and the other camp was represented by the erstwhile USSR, of which Russia was the main player. Further, recently we have seen that the Russian foreign minister had visited Pakistan, and this is the first time a Russian foreign minister has done so. So in this background, India is concerned about Russia's uncritical advocacy of China's global vision, and how it is going to impact India-Russia relations is very crucial for India. So in this background, let us try and understand the India-Russia relations in the emerging geopolitical scenario. Now, there are a lot of emerging geopolitical scenarios that are playing out, and these are likely impacting the India-Russia relations. First in this line is the India's alignment with the United States of America in its Indo-Pacific strategy. We all know that India has been aligning with the United States of America in the quadrilateral security dialogue in the Indo-Pacific strategy. And this is one of the key concerns between India-Russia relations. We all know that US and Russia have been adversaries for almost after the Second World War. Further, Russia has been one of the biggest defense partners for India. However, of late, India has signed all the four foundational defense agreements with the United States of America, which clearly highlights that India is tilting towards the United States of America in terms of its defense strategy. However, India has insisted that its Indo-Pacific initiatives like the quadrilateral security dialogues, etc., seek for a cooperative and rule-based order in the Indo-Pacific. And such initiative will not lead to a politico-military alliance, and that is why Russia need not be concerned with the India's cooperation with the United States of America. However, already experts have outlined that India's alignment with the United States of America is going to be one of the key issues in the India-Russia relationship's future. Then recently, Russia-China bonhomie is also being witnessed. And in this line, India has raised the concerns about Russia's China embrace, that is, the improving relations between Russia and China, which include close political, economic, and defense cooperation. Now, Russia accounted for about 77% of China's arms imports between 2016 to 2020, which is one of the big numbers. Also, India has already raised apprehensions about their technology and intelligence sharing. We all know that India is already concerned about the assertiveness of China on its northern borders. And then there are also speculations about a future Russia-China military alliance being developed against the United States of America and its Indo-Pacific strategy, which will make India and Russia standing at odds despite having a half century of good relations. Another issue that is affecting India-Russia relations is the Russia-Pakistan bonhomie. And in this line, the Russian foreign minister had recently visited Pakistan after he visited India. And this is the first time a Russian minister has visited Pakistan. So that is also a cause of concern for India, because at this visit, the Russian foreign minister highlighted that Russia would be strengthening the Pakistan's counter-terrorism capability. And this is being seen as a step to increase the Russian weapon supply to Pakistan. Now, Russia is Pakistan's second largest defense supplier, and it accounts for about 6.6% of its arms imports in 2016 to 2020. Further, both the countries are already cooperating on joint counter-terrorism drills and are sharing perspectives on the military tactics and strategic doctrines. Now, as the Russian arms exports are increasing to Pakistan, India is already concerned that it is one of the biggest importers of the Russian defense supplies. And that is why this will lead to sharing of the same intelligence and the technologies with both the countries who are adversaries. That is, if Russia shares the same technology and intelligence with both Pakistan and India, it will undermine India's security interests. Then also there are concerns regarding a new Cold War playing out because of the US-China angle. And in this line, the US is taking on both China and Russia, and it is leading to increasing relationship or improving relationship between China and Russia at this point of time, and it is driving them together. In this background, the experts have speculated that this is accelerating the move to bipolarity towards a new Cold War. Now, you might all know that during the Cold War, the world was divided into two camps. One was led by the erstwhile USSR, and one was led by the United States of America. So a similar bipolarity is being witnessed because United States of America is clearly taking on China and Russia, and this is increasing the bipolarity in the geopolitics because of increasing or improving relationship between China and Russia on the one hand and United States of America on the other hand. So there are speculations that this might lead to buildup of military blocs on the same lines that were witnessed during the Cold War between the erstwhile USSR and the United States of America led camps. So now what are the concerns for India-Russia relationship in this background? Now, Russia had supplied 49% of India's arm imports between 2016 to 2020. Now this share, although looks very high, however, this has been falling off late. And in this regard, the concerns have been raised by India regarding the potential technology secrets that can be shared with India's adversaries like Pakistan and China because of improving relationship between Russia and China and Pakistan. Further, India is concerned about the sanctions that can be imposed on India for importing defense equipments from Russia under the America's CARTSA law. And CARTSA law simply stands for Countering the America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act, and it was passed under the Donald Trump's regime. And it seeks to impose sanctions on all those countries that are cooperating with the America's adversaries, and these include Iran, Russia, etc. And that is why India is concerned that there can be sanctions that can be imposed on India if it keeps on importing defense equipments from Russia. And clearly, this is one of the concerns in the imports of S-400 missile deal between India and the Russia. Then another key issue in the India-Russia relations and why India-Russia relations need to be improved is the geography that is involved in the geopolitics. Now, looking at the geographical location of India, the Eurasian landmass to India's north is dominated by both Russia and China, as is clearly visible from this map. Because India shares its northern borders with China, and it also has increasing influence on the Eurasian countries. And besides this, the Central Asian countries, etc., are already under the influence of Russia. And for India to pursue its strategic and security interests in Central Asia, West Asia, and Afghanistan, it needs to have engagement with the region through the connectivity projects. And these will include the International North-South Transport Corridor, which can be seen in this map, and also improving the connectivity through the Chabahar port. And for improving India's strategic and security interests in the Central Asia, West Asia, and Afghanistan, India-Russia relations are key to it. So for pursuing these interests, India will have to effectively manage its relations with Russia. Now, as we have seen that India-Russia relations are witnessing challenges in the emerging geopolitical scenario. So in this background, the author says that the real strategic triangle that is going to remain in the maritime domain will mainly be dominated by India, US, and China. And in this background, the author has highlighted that Russia is yet to realize that it will gain immensely from the multilateralism that the Indo-Pacific seeks to promote. So basically, he has suggested that Russia should align with the multilateral point of view that has been projected in the conception of Indo-Pacific region. And at the same time, Russia has been cautioned that if it remains China's junior partner, it will undermine Russia's great power ambitions. Further, it is being said that Russia's foreign policy has a reflection of the Cold War mentality because Russia sees United States of America as its biggest rival. And this obsession of the Russian foreign policy makers of viewing China as a rival has largely impacted Russia's view of the India-China relations. And that is why Russia has abstained from commenting on the border issue that happened between India and China in 2020. However, in this background, it is being said that India is interested in normalizing its relations both between the US and the Russia. That is, India wants to balance its geopolitical position between the two powers of United States of America and Russia. And also, India wants that Russia should not participate or coordinate in the South Asian policies along with China. That is, Russia should have a separate point of view regarding the issues that are happening in South Asia, and these views of Russia should not be influenced by what China is exactly trying to do in this region.
There is a small news article on page number 10. Experts flag diversion of freshwater from Brahmani River. The news article presents a classical case of conservation versus development, or environmentalism versus economic growth. See, Brahmani River, as you can see here in the map, and its tributary Kharas Rota, this river, they feeds into this region that forms the Bhitarkanika wetland area. In the coast, it also has Bhitarkanika mangrove forest. This region hosts Bhitarkanika National Park as well. Bhitarkanika wetland is also one of the sites for olive ridley nesting. There are estimated 1600 water crocodiles in this region. It's a very important ecological region in our country. As you can see, this is surrounded by river Damra, river Brahmani, river Maipura. But it is largely fed by river Brahmani. You see, the thing is that mangrove forests, as you would already know, require optimum level of saltness in water. Mangrove forests cannot survive in fresh water. It cannot survive in highly salty water either. So we need brackish water, which requires proportionate mixture of fresh water with the salty seawater. This brackishness of the water in Pitarkanika wetland region, which is also one of the notified Ramsar site, has been maintained because of Brahmani river and its tributaries like Rasrota river. But because of intense amount of diversion of rivers freshwater for industrial and other developmental purposes, the brackish nature of water in the region is getting destroyed. There is huge industrial demand for water in the region. For example, the Talcher Angul coal mines, the steel and power plants in the state, which are water guzzlers. The state government is also planning for a mega drinking water project. In state like Orissa, there is a huge developmental pressure. The governance structure being of welfare nature, those cannot be compromised with. But it's a reality that our country already has seen. When the fresh water flow into the wetland region is decreased by developing a reservoir or by diversion, the wetland dies out. We have seen that in the Keladio National Park. And nearby to Bhitarkanika wetland region and mangrove areas, we have seen that in Sundarban mangrove forest. When the Farakka barrage was built in the state of West Bengal, it intensely impacted the Sundarban mangrove forest. There is an article on page number 16. India US signed project agreement on air-launched UAV. It has now been revealed that on July 30th, India and United States signed a project agreement for an air-launched unmanned aerial vehicle. The intention to sign such an agreement to work on a joint project was shown in the Memorandum of Agreement between India and US of 2006. And after that, economic meltdown came. And if you're a little aware as to what happened to Quad, you will understand that this agreement for a joint project was also shelved, only to be revived in 2015, the time around which India's foreign policy was more assertive. And a year later, Quad was also revived. This agreement to get into a joint project for making air-launched UAV is significant because it's a first step for deepening the technology collaboration. See, India and US are considered as natural allies. Many of the foreign policy of India is dependent on the steps US is taking. Our foreign policy in US was backing on the hope that US will not back down. To a certain degree, our foreign policy vis-a-vis China is also backing up with so-called pivot to Asia of US. We have been collaborating with US on various forums like Quad. We do important military exercises and collaborations. We have done various logistic agreements. Now it is only natural that things should be taken forward, and it is also a testing ground as to how much space US will create for India in its foreign policy. Getting agreement on technology collaboration is a new beginning in India-US relation. Now a little brainstorming, a little bit of homework for you. You think a little, you can also do an internet search on this. Has India and US got into any kind of technology collaboration before? You please find this out. Now on the screen you can see question of the day and answer to yesterday's question. Please attempt the question, mark your answer in the comment section, have some fruitful discussion. Also try to attempt the DNS quiz on the eLearn platform. Goodbye, take care.